Good evening, everyone. It's
He's
SarahTonen.
not here.
Whoops. Wow, that was probably a bit chaotic. It's SarahTonen. I'm just going to go for it tonight. It turns out that my microphone is working temporarily, and I have a number of things I wanted to point out. So, keeping up with just what is current right now, Howie Mandel put out a weird video the other day, and it said on it shoe stuff. But what I actually saw was five HO stuff. Okay, like that. That's how it was spelled on the thing. Now, many years ago, I went to go and see a movie called The Aristocrats. And it's a pretty disgusting movie. It's basically all revolves around a joke. And the joke being that this family does all these horrific. Okay, so there's an agent or whatever who's trying to come up with, or I don't know, producers trying to come up with a show, and so this agent is like, "Oh, I have the perfect people for you for your show," and he describes the show, and it's really disgusting. And the punchline is at the end, the guy goes, "Well, what are they called?" And the name of the act is The Aristocrats. And basically, the idea of the joke is that you fill in the joke with wherever your mind takes you. And I would like everybody who has the stomach to watch it, which should be none of you, to be totally honest. But seriously, that movie, if you have the stomach to watch Hollywood or listen to Hollywood at this point, make up the most disgusting joke about a family of acrobats, so to speak, who are called the aristocrats. I remember sitting in this movie going, oh my god, this is so disgusting. This is so offensive. I can't even watch this. Then I became numbed to it after a few minutes. I was going to get up and leave, but, my polite Canadian self decided to stay and see what happened. And then after about 20 minutes, once I'd sort of gotten over all that, I started to realize that this was basically a magnifying glass into the psyche of every single person up there. Okay. And I will say this, I don't know what's going to come out about Whoopi, but she was probably the only person who did not make me want to run screaming at the idea of ever meeting them. And I will say that Howie Mandel was definitely one of the creepiest. He has such a disgust of women. It was unbelievable. Everything he said was all about how women basically are so gross. And I know he's supposed to be some sort of germaphobe. Anyway, the movie is horrific. I only recommend it in terms of like a psychological, look into the. Ugh. You know what? I don't even know if I recommend it at all, but it does lend to a little bit about what's going on with these people in terms of what we're finding out now about them. Totally freaky. Anyway, what's really weird about Howie Mandel is I remember Howie Mandel from a long time ago because, oh geez Louise, because I'm old and Howie Mandel used to have hair, and I also have curly hair, very curly hair. And I remembered Howie Mandel as being someone who had a bit of a fro, just like me. And so I also remember him kind of being nowhere in sight. And, he wasn't like, a young man when he had still had hair. Here he is. He's pretty, like, he's not super young there, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, suddenly he pops back up into pop culture and he's got no hair. Nobody says anything. And suddenly he seems kind of, I don't know, just different. That's all I'm going to say. Just different. So Howie Mandel was a spokesperson for what? Well, oh jeez. Okay, well I thought it was going to be a lot easier than that. Well, he was a spokesperson for Boston Pizza. We're going to have a quick look at that. I'm sorry, I'm always clearing my throat. Sorry, guys. But I'm just going to go for it today. And my apologies to those of you who don't want to hear me clear my throat, but I do have some interesting things to say. Anyway, Boston Pizza, here we go. So let's have a look here. Okay. Clearly I'm not getting what I want when I'm adding him into this, but he was. Look at this, okay? You will see the very same symbols, the FBI pedo symbols. Okay? Boston pizza. Boston pizza. Okay? In the world of these people, CP stands for CHILDPRON. No, PORN. BP is very likely that it's possible to stand for a younger person in the same situation. Okay, let's have a little look at this logo. I really didn't expect it to get this dark this fast. But here we go with the hearts in the pepperoni as well. Oh my goodness. And here we have the eye at the top of the pyramid. My goodness. Okay. 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 Now, I actually sent this in to Starship Earth Big Picture, and I'm not too sure if it's gonna get get shown or not. But here, this is something that came up. I noticed this on Twitter the other day. It said that the police in Toronto were voluntarily given customers' personal information by Pizza Pizza without a warrant, and a lot of people are freaking out about this, and it does sound like it could be bad. But let's just take a moment to look at, now I don't know if you guys know what a pizza table is, but it's a little piece of plastic that holds up the pizza to keep it from getting squashed by the box, and this is the one that they have with their pizzas. And that's not a one-off, because this was ordered recently, and we had one ordered a few months ago, and it was the same, and I never noticed before until just recently. So that is what they call a pizza table, which is a device with 3 legs. You can see here it makes a what shape, guys? A Y shape. And this is called a pizza table with an eye on it, and it holds the box apart to stop your pizza from getting squashed by the box, or so they say. What else do I want to talk about? Let's go back to Howie Mandel for a minute here. Let's keep this. And let's go over here for Howie Mandel. So, Howie Mandel does not sport any hair. And what I find very interesting is, oh no, what is her name? Oh, it's not Alyssa. Hang on. The Squad AOC. Okay, what the heck is her name? This is it. Ariana. I knew it wasn't Alyssa. Okay. So it turns out, just recently I saw a picture uh, are Ayanna Presley. Sorry, I have such a hard time. I want to say see an R in her name, and I don't. And it really shocked me because I hadn't seen a picture of her in a long time, and I didn't know that she no longer had hair. And knowing what I know a little bit about the Squad, which is just so interestingly named, and you really, if you're interested to know how I feel about that whole group, you should go and have a look at some of my AOC videos that I did a while ago. And very interestingly enough, the acronym AOC used to mean Architect of the Capitol. And the architect of the Capitol is the person who comes in there and changes the system. I kid you not. So she was very aptly named, very purposely chosen, and it might not even be her real name because there's a lot of evidence to say that most of these politicians do not use their actual names. And that includes Nancy Pelosi, that includes a lot of them actually. Cory Booker, a bunch of them have second names, which is really interesting. Anyway, so here we have Howie Mandel, and here we have Ayanna Presley. And what's really interesting, and I have my own personal story about this too, but what's really interesting is I don't know if you guys have ever read the book The Witches, but The Witches was also turned into a movie that stars Angelica Houston. And in the movie, the idea is there's witches that are all over the world. They live in every country, and they're women, and they have violet colored eyes, and they have no toes, and they have terrible claws on their fingers, and so they wear gloves, and they always wear these sort of square-toed shoes, and they're always scratching their heads because they have to wear wigs because they're bald. And witches hate children, and so what they want to do is they want to turn them into mice. Well, they want them to disappear, but in this story, what they're going to do is they're going to poison this candy, and they're going to turn all the children in the world into mice, and their parents will freak out and stomp all over them and kill them, and there'll be no more children in the world, and witches will be happy. And this is sort of the gist of it. But what is so interesting about the story of the witches is there's a point in the movie where they all take off their wigs and their shoes and their gloves, and they're all bald. And I just find that incredibly interesting, because my attention was actually brought to this book and movie earlier this year. And then when I saw this, I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Okay, so why was I originally thinking about the witches? Well, let me see if I can find it. I want to get the name right because, okay, the soundtrack, the story. Okay. Um, okay. Here we go. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. So in the story and the movie, the witches are disguised as members of the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. Now, if I put that in here, this is actually a thing. And you wouldn't believe, who was it that was recently, was it, I believe it was her. Hmm. Oh, darn it. Oh, okay, maybe it wasn't her. Anyway, someone very famous. Um, let's have a look. Okay, here we go. The National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. And these are some of the people who have helped, quote unquote. Now, what's the thing? Oh, Ellen DeGeneres. Oh, you don't say. Oh, maybe she wasn't there. Okay. Hang on a second. Darn it! I wish I could remember who it was. Not celebrities, but not endorsement, but donation. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Anyway, let's have a look at it. There is this thing, the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. And campaigning and controversy. All babies count. Sounds like Black Lives Matter, but for babies. Oh, darn it. See, I wanted to do like a big thing on this, a big sting. You know what? I did have something on this. I know I had something on this. And so you're going to have to I'm going to have to put a pin in this for now. And I will come back to this one because there's something in this. Anyway, I'm going to go now for the moment. And I will come back to this. So here we are. Ayanna Pressley, I've called her out. I've called her this. I've called her a witch. This is weird. Okay. Especially as it pertains to a lot of the stuff coming out right now on the Twitter stuff, which is like absolutely plentiful. I have absolutely no hesitation in sending you to see this guy again, the inevitable ET_ET. He posts often, and he's got a lot of people sending him very pertinent information. So if you want to know what's going on with the Q stuff, that's him. I just discovered Lady Canuck, or Lady Canuck, and she's pretty great, and she seems to, let's have a look here. I don't know if she's been posting much today, but she's definitely posts a bit, and she hasn't much. And she's Canadian, so she's got a little bit of the Canadian perspective, although she definitely does have her eyes on the U.S. right now. So there is that. I wanted to share this with you guys too. The Healthy American was a website that I just checked out recently, and these people have had quite a lot of success in Orange County. So much success, in fact, that their governor, Gavin Newsom, actually reacted um, by slapping down a longer lockup time. So they're making headway and freaking people out, which is kind of interesting. So let's see what else. Okay. Oh, why don't you take a little pause of this page when you have a moment, okay? All right, so let's have a look again. I want to talk to you just a little bit more about this and that. So I have a friend that I went to high school with who I ran into a long time ago. Um, and she is now in a same sex relationship, marriage, with a woman who has exactly this kind of hairdo. And they have a child, um, and their child's name, oh, I wish I could tell you, but it's something to do with the moon, is the best way that I can say it. It's to do with a name, to do with the moon, and to do with candles. And that's the biggest hint I can give you, because otherwise I don't want to be putting a child in danger or anything. Not that many people really give a crap about any of my videos and stuff, but I am not about um, divulging information unwittingly about people knowingly. So there you go. Anyway, uh, all kinds of realizations are freaking me out these days. Um, so one last thing before I go, I don't really have much else to say, but I did want to talk about someone who, um, you know, I wonder. I'm looking back now at this woman, and I'm really wondering what exactly happened there, because there was a lot of neglect. There was a lot going on here with this particular situation. And now I am fully aware, with eyes very wide open. Um, I want to know what happened. I'm sort of hoping for justice in this particular situation. So there's not a lot of people that really got plucked off the street. And when you think of um, celebrity and fame and all this stuff, sort of, and what they must go through, what they do go through, some of them willingly, and possibly some of them not so willingly. It makes the whole idea about reality TV pretty sick, if you think about it. I always thought it was kind of gross anyway, just people sort of clawing and vying for fame and stuff. But it is really quite disturbing when now we're faced with all this knowledge of what actually is happening in these covens and these agreements and this blackmail material and all the stuff that goes on. And then you look at someone like Amy Winehouse and you really wonder, like, what exactly happened, because she did seem to be sort of plucked from reality. She's a real girl. She wasn't, as far as I know, she could have been born into this. I have no idea. I mean, born into this lifestyle by parents who were already sort of messed up in all of this business um, in a spiritual sense, and therefore she might have had sort of no real freedom from that at all. But at the same time, it was very interesting. There's so many stories of her. She went downhill very quickly. And there's a lot of pictures, because I was really into this whole celebrity thing. Like, there's this, what's it called again? Crazy Days and Nights. And there's another one that was Blind Items. And like a long time ago, I used to read this stuff and whatever. Before I really understood what was going on, I saw a darker world happening there, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But I was very pulled in with my attention in that direction. And what's very interesting is I had a lot of people sort of tell me, well, it shows a very shallow side of you, because I do have this sort of much deeper depth to my personality than, you know, celebrity stuff, whatever. But I was always fascinated from the psychological point of view. I was trying to figure out what was going on. And now I realize, like, I was definitely onto something. There's been so much confirmation for me over the last couple of months. It's just crazy. But anyway, going back to this suffering woman, I mean, honestly, like, when I see this picture of her and then you see the rest, like, it's incredible. It's just incredible. What they did to her. So I have no doubt that she was tricked into taking possibly the worst of the drugs. And then possibly when she figured out how it was created and how what had to happen in order for her to have it, I think she tried to, I guess, possibly medicate with other drugs. I don't exactly know what the situation was. What gives it all away for me, though, in an incredibly huge way, is, first of all, they literally just watched her die. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody reached out. Nobody tried anything. It was just horrific to watch. Number two, there are so many pictures of her in the Caribbean hanging out with poor kids, having fun, buying them food, chilling out with them. Well, now we know what they do to poor children from the Caribbean. Well, I can't imagine they would have liked that very much. So, you know, Kurt Cobain, another obvious one. That girl who was in, oh, what was it? The Melissa Oftamar band. It wasn't, was it Smashing Pumpkins, I think, or something? I can't remember if it was that one or not. Shannon Hoon, from Blind Melon. I mean, who else? Who else, right? Here's another personal story. When I was traveling around a while back, I ended up finding myself in New Zealand. And when I got off the plane, I had a friend of mine back home who had organized for two friends of his to meet me at the airport. They were a couple. And the guy was apparently a Freemason. And she told me she was in the girls' version of it. And they invited me to play Dungeons and Dragons. And I said no in the end. And she worked, if you can believe it, because it's legalized there. She worked in a rub and tug. And she was taking me out and chatting me up and trying to get me to consider coming to work with her. And I was like, no, I was really put off by the whole thing. And when I left, because I borrowed, if you can believe this, first of all, I can't even believe it when I think of it right now. They loaded up my laptop with movies, apparently, and they gave me a cell phone. And I thought, oh, they're so kind. And off I went for the next like 3 weeks. No, 5 weeks I was there around New Zealand with a laptop filled with the movies they had given me and a freaking phone that they had given me. I'm laughing now about it. So when I went home, I had to drop off the phone to them. So I stayed with them for a couple of days before I left. And when we were chatting, they were like, they wanted to take me out for the night. And she was just a piece of work. She was out making out with all these people on the dance floor. And just like, oh, it's so much fun. And I'm like, yeah, have yourself a nice time there. And at one point, she starts, what was it? Oh, she told me, that was it, that they had their anniversary. And I am not a TMI person. I'm not really interested in knowing about anything to do with your life. So already this girl was like crossing so many lines for me. But she actually told me at one point, oh my God, it's mind blowing to think about it right now. She told me that they had their anniversary, they went to a hotel room, and that he tied her up on the door. Bum, bum, bum. I'm not kidding. She said he tied me to the doorknob. Never done that before. What? There's just guys, there's so much stuff. Now that I know what I know, and I'm looking back on it, and I'm like, oh my goodness. It's absolutely mental. He was a Freemason, and she was a whatever it's called, the lady version, the rose something or other. I can't remember which one it was. But I've seen hang on, I can't even look at it. Sometimes my brain is too exhausted from just the horrors of it all. But anyway, that's what I got for tonight. I'm just going to stick with this. But there's so many other celebrities I've been wondering about. But I'm exhausted. And I have a Linda Paris video to watch. So I'm going to leave you there. Hi. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.